If you're looking for a vacation paradise, go south to Puerto Rico, hub of the Blue Caribbean. As you pass through the harbor guarded by famed Morro Castle, you'll have visions of buccaneers and the Spanish Main. El Morro was built centuries ago by the Spaniards to ward off attacks from the sea by those who would challenge ownership of the wonders and wealth of this provident island.
Puerto Rico, which means rich port, was discovered by Christopher Columbus, who claimed it for Spain in 1493. Much of the feeling of old Spain remains, of a long-lived colonial empire whose wealth came not from gold and silver, but from the vast fields of sugarcane. Sugar became the island's very life, and the plantation owners, who formed a kind of ruling aristocracy, prospered. Puerto Rico developed into a Spanish Gibraltar in the Caribbean. The guns of the fortress El Morro protected the colony from English and French buccaneers until the Spanish-American War in 1898, when the United States fleet landed troops and Spain was at last forced to give up her 400-year hold on the island. In 1917, we were made citizens of the United States. In 1952, we became a self-governing commonwealth, voluntarily associated with the United States. Now, this is a very unusual relationship between two countries. Puerto Rico is not a colonial dependency, nor is it a state, but it is part of the United States with an autonomous government.
So I can show you a Puerto Rico beyond West Side Story and postcard images. Mi Puerto Rico, a land culturally united and politically divided.
I had very good teachers then, but there was very little in my books about Puerto Rico.
I have learned that Puerto Rico is really 4 islands, an archipelago set in the middle of the Caribbean. Puerto Ricans are mestizo, a mixture of native Taino Indian, Spanish, and African bloodlines. Puerto Ricans see themselves as a distinct nationality. They feel Puerto Rico is a country with its own history and unique culture, separate from the United States. Puerto Rico became a territory of the United States when it was invaded in 1898. 50 years later, its status changed to Commonwealth. Under Commonwealth, Puerto Rico has internal governmental autonomy and economic support from the United States. In exchange, the United States has ultimate authority over Puerto Rican affairs and keeps a dozen military installations on its soil.
Practically no industry. Therefore, very few jobs to be had. Slums, which still exist, are grim reminders of the depths we had reached in the mid-1930s. Where there is no work, there is poverty, disease, living conditions so bad you would not believe they could exist. Puerto Rico, a possession of the United States, an island lying in the very shadow of the mainland, was known as the poorhouse of the Caribbean. There was widespread malaria, hookworm, hunger, and dying of it. Over half of the children did not go to school. 1 out of 3 could not read or write. The United States government tried to help. They built health centers and schools, but they could not solve the basic economic problems.
Many on the island told us the wealth coming into the island is not reaching the local people. Plus, they tell us they're being priced out of their neighborhoods.
It's gentrification at its purest form. We don't see it on the roads. They're not making improvements around.
It's very sad. Puerto Rico is destroyed.
But unfortunately, beauty alone is not enough. There are few mineral resources here. And because of the rainforests and mountains, only half the island can be used for agriculture. Even if we could hack away the jungles and level the mountains, we still could not produce enough food to feed our population of 2.5 million. Imagine if most of the people in the world one day moved to the United States. This will give you an approximate idea of how densely populated Puerto Rico is, of the problems created when 2.5 million people must live crowded on an island only 100 miles long and 35 miles wide.
This is the Plaza of Isabel II. This placita, like those in every town across Puerto Rico, is the heart of El Pueblo. But in one way, this town is like no other, because periodically notices are distributed and posted cautioning Viequenses of scheduled bombing runs to take place on both ends of the island.
The Navy's presence on Vieques began after World War II, when it was used as a training site for military maneuvers.
D-Day in the Caribbean. 15,000 U.S. troops swarm ashore on Vieques Island, Puerto Rico, as the Army, Navy, and Air Force stage their biggest combined maneuver since the war. Operation...
Over the years, these maneuvers and bombing runs have almost destroyed the fishing industry and the island's economy, forcing many Viequenses to leave, including my grandparents. The Navy's presence continues to this day.
Constantemente sentimos nosotros el detonar de las bombas, del constante tirar de los aviones, de manera que nuestro pueblo está constantemente sometido a ese constante bombardeo. Las implicaciones de esas maniobras, mucho más allá que la consecuencia, es la destrucción de nuestros recursos naturales, es la destrucción de nuestras corales, es la destrucción de nuestras playas.
Y hay mucha gente millonaria trayendo, ¿verdad?, para construir. Es una realidad. Están destruyendo las playas.
For many Puerto Ricans, protecting their beaches is protecting their paradise.
Ella tiene 5 añitos. Ella viene conmigo y se trae una bolsa todos los fines de semana a recoger basura. Ella sabe proteger las tortugas, ella ya sabe de la vida marina.
By Puerto Rican law, all beaches on the island are public.
I grew up at the beach, and we just want to preserve it for future generations and for everybody that wants to come and enjoy our island.
Boricuas like Wilmar Vázquez have been fighting to save their home from investors and construction sites that they say are destroying the natural resources of the island.
Today's law enforcement action was conducted to fulfill an agreement reached last January between President Clinton and Puerto Rico's Governor Pedro Rosselló. Under the agreement, the Navy can resume its training at Camp Garcia as long as it only uses inert bombs.
cantar en voz alta. Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, sabe que han comenzado ahora con nosotros aquí desde la plaza pública, van a seguir.
La Marina.
Puerto Ricans have protested military presence in Vieques since the 1950s. These protests are one example of how the U.S.-Puerto Rican relationship has played itself out for nearly 100 years.
One of the finest, most fashionable hotels, catering to your every wish. There is no hurry, no hustle and bustle in this tropical paradise. Just get into your vacation clothes and get out under the sky, where the trade winds carry the tang of the sea as you give yourself to complete relaxation and enjoyment in a land of mañana.